Halo semua, selamat siang teman-teman di Indonesia dan di Australia. Bagaimana kabar kalian? Semoga kalian semua sehat dan semoga tetap semangat belajar online dari rumah. Nama saya Emma dari Kedutaan Besar Australia di Jakarta. Kalian bisa memanggil saya Kak Emma. Selamat datang di acara Mendongeng virtual bersama Aunty Patsy Cameron. Aunty Patsy akan membacakan buku yang berjudul Sea Country. Oke, sebelum kita memulai acara hari ini, kakak ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada teman-teman, adik-adik, semua guru dan orang tua yang sudah mengikuti acara ini. Khususnya kepada seluruh sekolah dan madrasah yang tergabung dalam program kemitraan sekolah Bridge, Australia Indonesia, Museum dan Galeri Seni Queen Victoria di Tasmania, Magabala Books, dan Pustaka Lana Library yang sudah mendukung acara ini. Acara ini diadakan sebagai bagian dari kampanye Pekan Buku yang diadakan oleh Kedutaan Besar Australia. Memulai acara ini, kami berharap semoga teman-teman semakin giat membaca dan mendengarkan cerita-cerita yang dibacakan oleh orang tua, guru, dan penulis buku melalui acara seperti kegiatan kita hari ini. Hari ini kita akan bersama-sama mendengarkan cerita Aunty Patsy Cameron yang akan membacakan buku yang berjudul Sea Country. Buku Sea Country bercerita tentang kehidupan gadis kecil yang tumbuh di dekat pantai di Pulau Selat Bas dan bagaimana ia terhubung ke laut, pantai, dan daratan. Juga tentang pengaruh cuaca dan budaya serta tentang memahami sebuah cerita. Aunty Patsy juga akan bercerita tentang tradisi kehidupan di Tasmania, cuaca dan lingkungan di pulau di mana ia dibesarkan, juga sekaligus tentang budaya penduduk asli Australia. Dia kira cara akan ada kuis yang pertanyaannya diambil dari buku Sea Country. Jadi, simak baik-baik ya cerita dari Aunty Patsy. Yang bisa menjawab pertanyaan dengan benar dan cepat akan mendapatkan hadiah spesial dari Kedubes Australia. Oke, sekarang kalian sudah siap? Kita saksikan sama-sama videonya ya. Oke, selamat menyaksikan semua.
I'm about to do the reading of Sea Country that was written by myself and illustrated by Lisa Kennedy, an Aboriginal woman who lives in Victoria, and it's all about me when I was growing up on a little island in Bass Strait, an island obviously surrounded by the ocean, surrounded by the sea. Lisa and I have dedicated this book to our children's children, and that means all children of all ages who will get great joy, I'm sure, out of reading this book, and I'm very pleased to read it to you today. My people are proud, strong people. We are the descendants of Manalaginna, of the Perabina Chulway clan. We grew up on Flinders Island in eastern Bass Strait. The bush and the beach were our playground. There was freedom there, freedom to practice our culture, to know who we were and where we came from. Aunties all around collecting shells, stringing them into necklaces, rice shells, toothies, black crows, penguins, mariners, oat shells, gull shells. Uncles all around, fishing with their nets in their wooden dinghies with long oars, garfish, flounder, flathead, King George whiting. We children would look for shellfish to cook and eat, periwinkles, wereners, limpets, whelks. We were free to hear country speaking to us, to watch for signs from country, A ring around the moon told us bad weather was coming. Grandfather Silas showed us what country was saying. When the clouds came down over Mount Munro, the rains would come and the wind would blow from the southeast. When the black cockatoos came down from the mountains, we knew it would rain and the winds would blow from the northwest. When the boobiella flowers came, it was time to look up. This is when the mutton birds would come in a great wave at dusk, circling around for hours, turning the sky black. They had travelled thousands of kilometres and would land within a few metres of their own nest from the years before. Summer is the season for ripening. Wild cherries, wild currants, taters, canigong. Canigong fruits taste like salty strawberries. We did not know where the mutton birds had been for so long. We imagine them in the sea, diving to catch the krill they eat, talking with the whales. The old people called the mutton birds yolla. We called them moonbirds, as we imagined them flying to the moon and back. When the mutton birds would leave the island, it was time for paper nautilus shells. The whole family walked for hours along the beach, gathering the nautilus shells the sea had brought us. The shells smelled like the deepest ocean. The old people called this shell Wiatina. These are some of the ways that Sea Country showed us another year had passed. In the early 1800s, cotton thread and sewing needles were introduced to our people's toolkit. The women made necklaces using a range of small shells and stringing them into beautiful patterns. When I was young, I watched my mum stringing shells the way her old aunties had taught her. She told me the aunties from Cape Barren Island showed her where to gather toothies and rice shells on the island beaches. They showed her how to clean the shells and string them into patterns. Mum always used merina shells in her patterns, like this exquisite green necklace. Now I make my own strings of shells, just as my mum taught me to make. So we connect to country by listening to country speaking to us. So when the flowers of certain trees are showing their colours, like the boobiella for instance, will tell us that the mutton birds are coming back. That's usually towards the end of August, early September, when they return from their migration, that the boobiella flowers, the beautiful yellow colours, are all flowering around the coast. And then inland there are other wattle trees that are flowering to let the people that used to live on the inland, hinterland, would know that the mutton birds would be returning. Country speaks to us by telling us certain flowers that are coming out, that we must be careful because the snakes are waking up. So the white flag iris, we call the snake lily, that tells us or alerts our children to be aware that the snakes are moving around, to be aware that we have to be careful that we don't run into a tiger snake. So there are two examples of country speaking to us, but remembering that country is also the sky, the land, the waterways and the sea. So there are things in the sky that alert us to changing weather, and I talk about that in the book with the rings around the moon. That's what we mean by saying country tells us. Country tells us when we should burn country, when we should use fire to renew country. Because if country is sick, then we become sick. So we care for our country and it will care for us. My people refers to my relatives, my close family, my kin, my uncles and my aunties and my cousins, my parents and my grandparents are all included in that term, my people. To me, using this term means that referring to people who I am related to. So my blood, we share the same DNA, and that we are a unique group of people. So not just any people, but descendants of Tasmanian Aboriginal people. I think that's really important. So all of the people, the descendants of Mendongeng, come through 4 of his daughters. And you will see on one of the pages, you'll see the 4 daughters in the water. One of those daughters is my ancestral granny. Her name was Tikal Termi, or Nimarana was her other name. There were 3 other daughters that Mendongeng had, and many Tasmanian Aboriginal people descend from those 4 daughters, and therefore are directly descendants of Mendongeng. Mendongeng is an important leader. He was a warrior, he was a spirit man, and we all hold him in high esteem, even today. So we use the term clan to describe the small family groups that existed. Up to 100 clans existed in Tasmania before the Europeans arrived. The clans have distinct territories where they belonged, and within those territories, the wider area or the expanded area was the nation land. And we use that term clan because each of those extended family groups had a leader. Mendongeng was the leader of the Perabena and Chihuahua clan. So the clans, up to 100 clans, then divided or subdivided into between 9 and 13 nations. Each of those nations had different languages. So in Tasmania, Aboriginal people spoke between 8 and 13 languages before the Europeans arrived. I want to sincerely thank all of the children of Indonesia, the Australian Embassy of Jakarta, the Queen Victoria Museum and Art Gallery, Magabala Books, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade in Hobart, the illustrator Elisa Kennedy, and all of the other people that have been involved in producing this amazing book, Sea Country, and being able to present it to you today. I'm very thrilled about that. Thank you.
Bagus sekali ya, seru sekali ya cerita dari Aunty Patsy. Terima kasih Aunty Patsy. Kita mendapatkan pengetahuan tentang kehidupan di Pulau Flinders, juga tentang cuaca dan lingkungan di sana. Kak Emma jadi teringat semasa kecil sering bermain di pantai sambil mengumpulkan kerang. Bagaimana dengan kalian? Tadi ia bercerita banyak tentang budaya penduduk asli Australia dan khususnya tentang lingkungan di mana ia tumbuh besar di Selat Bass di Pulau Flinders. Kakak ingin bertanya, ada yang tahu tidak di mana lokasi Selat Bass? Selat Bass banyak disebut oleh Aunty Patsy dalam ceritanya tadi. Selat Bass adalah selat yang memisahkan negara bagian Victoria di Australia dengan Pulau Tasmania. Disitulah lokasi cerita dari buku Sea Country. Sangat menarik mendengarkan cerita bagaimana lautan, Langit dan daratan saling terhubung memberikan tanda bagi lingkungan. Semoga kalian semua menikmati cerita dari Aunty Patsy dan juga lebih memahami tentang kehidupan di Tasmania. Karena buku yang dibacakan tadi merupakan buku yang bercerita tentang lingkungan sebelumnya, kami telah meminta teman-teman dari Bridge Schools Program untuk menggambar ilustrasi dari sampul buku Sea Country. Beberapa dari kalian juga merekam video dan membuat prediksi tentang isi cerita buku Sea Country. Oke, mari kita saksikan videonya bersama-sama.
Gambar ini bercerita tentang seorang anak perempuan yang bermimpi bertemu dengan 2 ekor ikan paus.
Saya menggambar cerita mengenai Aunty Patsy Cameron yang merupakan keturunan dari orang-orang Firebeard Trawlway di Tasmania.
Dalam buku cerita ini menggambarkan tentang tradisi kehidupan masyarakat aborigi yang sangat menghormati budaya.
Gambar ini bercerita tentang seorang perempuan yang hidupnya untuk melestarikan kehidupan di laut.
This book is talk about the any kind sea animals and the nature of the sea.
Sea Country ini menceritakan tentang Aunty Patsy Cameron yang tinggal di sebuah pulau. Aunty sangat senang sekali bermain pasir di tepi pantai, melihat burung-burung yang berterbangan tinggi, mengumpulkan kerang, dan memancing ikan dengan perahu kayunya.
Gambar buku ini menceritakan seorang perempuan yang tinggal di dekat pantai. Dia sangat menyukai kehidupan laut, binatang laut, udara yang segar, dan suara burung-burung di atas laut.
Aunty Patsy sangat suka melihat burung-burung berterbangan di ombak laut. Aunty Patsy sangat suka melihat awan berliku-liku seperti gunung.
This book is talking about aborigine culture, weather, and season in Australia.
Saya akan menceritakan Sea Country. Ini ada lautan yang tercemar. Ini ada banyak sampah. Gara-gara itu makanya tercemar. Dan ikan paus pun memakan banyak sampah. Dan penyu pun memakan sampah juga. Ibu burung mencari makan untuk anak-anaknya. Nanti kelaparan gimana? Ini ada ikan-ikan mati. Makanya itu kurangi sampah plastik dan sayangi lautan.
Simak ceritanya ya, teman-teman.
Wah, terima kasih semuanya. Bagus ya. Terima kasih teman-teman yang sudah ikut kegiatan menggambar dan bercerita tentang buku Sea Country. Semua gambar yang dikirimkan sangat menarik. Kalian memiliki banyak menjadi ilustrator yang hebat ya. Oke, sekarang waktunya kuis. Semoga kalian menyimak baik-baik video dari Aunty Patsy tadi ya. Kalian bisa menjawab pertanyaan dengan cara meminta bantuan guru atau orang tua untuk mengirimkan jawaban melalui email kami. Oke, pertanyaan ya adalah pertanyaan 1, di pulau apa Aunty Patsy tinggal? Pertanyaan kedua adalah terbuat dari apa kalung-kalung yang dibuat oleh Aunty Patsy dan para bibi? Dan pertanyaan ketiga, sebutkan sama satu binatang yang ada di dalam buku Sea Country. Oke, dan pertanyaan keempat, siapa nama kakek Aunty Patsy? Oke, kirim jawaban kalian melalui email cultural.jakarta@gmail.com dengan menyatakan nama anak, nama sekolah, dan alamat lengkap rumah. Kami tunggu jawaban kalian paling lambat 5 November. 5 pemenang tercepat yang dapat menjawab pertanyaan dengan benar akan mendapatkan paket hadiah dari Kedubes Australia. Oke, semoga sukses ya. Sekarang acaranya sudah selesai. Sekali lagi kami mengucapkan terima kasih untuk kalian semua yang sudah bergabung bersama kami. Terima kasih juga kepada Bridge Schools Program di Indonesia dan di Australia, orang tua dan guru yang sudah mengikuti acara ini, juga kepada Aunty Patsy Cameron, Museum dan Galeri Seni Queen Victoria di Tasmania, Magabala Books, dan Putaka Lana Library yang sudah mendukung acara hari ini. Semoga kita bertemu segera di acara-acara berikutnya ya. Oke, sampai bertemu semuanya.